Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming to our event for ChupaCarter. We're so excited to have George with us to talk about his book. My name is Jenny Bach, and I'm George's editor. Let me first mention that the link to purchase an autographed copy is below. It's premiercollectibles.com/Lopez. And now to introduce the main man. George Lopez's multifaceted career encompasses television, film, stand-up comedy, digital, and late-night programming. This fall, stay tuned for George's upcoming NBC comedy, Lopez vs. Lopez, featuring his real-life daughter, Mayan Lopez. His autobiography, Why Are You Crying?, was a New York Times bestseller, and ChupaCarter is his first book for children. Welcome, George.
Thanks.
Happy on sale week, and for those in the audience who haven't gotten a chance to read it, can you tell us a little bit about ChupaCarter and what it's about?
ChupaCarter is about a young boy who doesn't have what they would have considered back then a nuclear family. You know, he's living with his grandparents, moved away from Los Angeles. His mom sent him away because she was having some issues. And, you know, in his dreams and in his real life, you know, he becomes kind of attached to the moon. You know, when I was growing up, I spent a lot of time alone, and I would look at the moon. And then when I would look at the moon, I would think about what was out there for me, who my friends were going to be, who was I going to meet, what was I going to end up doing. And when he's doing that, he hears a noise, and he sees, we call him Carter, but it's a chupacabra, and he's a little bit lost himself. And they forge this friendship, and they take these adventures together.
Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to want to write a children's book?
Well, I mean, I would have to say that, I know that there's a lot of children out there who are affected with ADD, ADHD, anxiety. I mean, there's so many things. And a lot of it is produced, you know, in a sense of fear or the unknown, or you don't have somebody maybe in your family that you can rely on, or somebody that is a guiding hand, or someone who takes an interest in you. All of the above, I didn't have. And I don't think that those kids should ever be made to feel like they're not, I don't want to say equal. I just say like they don't belong in a place, in a school, in a room, on a team, in a bus, in a store. And all of those things that I had to deal with in my own mind. And maybe it wasn't as bad as it was in my own mind, but to me, I was afraid of everything. So I just wanted to do this book to kind of convey a message to all kids, adults, young adults, whoever, that just because of your circumstances in the beginning, they don't affect your circumstances in the middle or in the end.
I know this is a team effort with your co-writer, Ryan Calejo. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like working with him?
You know, Ryan is you know, if you see buddy movies or cop movies or movies where there's a guy and you say, how about if we do this? Oh, I love it. You know, like almost in MASH had radar. So radar, the guy would say, hey, we need to get a ham radio over here. Radar, the guy shows up with a ham radio. Ryan was one of those guys that we haven't met in person, but our connection as writer and co-writers was that wherever I was going to go, he was already like, it's like you're walking and all of a sudden somebody appears and you go, hey, how did you get here? I was with you. I was just in another lane. But we've already talked about the second book. In Puerto Rico, I was doing Blue Beetle, and we talked for like an hour and a half. And then the illustrations with Santi. I mean, it's like already going. So he's a great partner to have, especially because he's not here. You know, you have to talk to him 3 hours ahead, but he's not in the room because you get to, you know, there's so many distractions, but not distractions when he and I get on the phone or we get on a call. And everybody really at Penguin and everybody involved has been just so great in keeping me in line and focused on this. And I'm so happy that everybody did, because I'm proud of what this book has turned out to be.
Yeah, I can definitely testify to his excitement. We were just talking about the warm weather in Florida one day, and all of a sudden a box of his like homegrown mangoes showed up at my doorstep because he sent me a little bit of sunshine from Florida. Yeah. He's really the best. And the third member of your team is Santi Gutierrez, who was Queen and was the artist for all of the cover and interior art for ChupaCarter. Can you give us a sense of what it was like seeing Sandy's illustrations for the first time?
You know, when as you know, when I look back on what my little league years look like, or what it looked like to walk to school with my friends, they look like these illustrations. I mean, now everybody's into, people fly and then they go to other countries and they wear metal suits, and the art has changed. It can be very intricate, or it can be really simple, like a illustration photo of what your mind has left you as a memory, and that's what's in these books. Like my face there, my hair there, my eyes had big eyes, had dimples, and I look at them and they're almost like if I was looking through a photo album of my childhood. That's what those pictures are. They're intricate, but in a way that they're not overdrawn. Every line and everything that she did, she put me back to where I was.
Your audience is generally adults, but here you also obviously, have a child. So
It's hard to say, it's hard to say because on TikTok, you'll see somebody watching my television show and they'll say, "Hey, look at this," and there'll be a little kid that's maybe like 2 years old dancing, and dogs watch my first show, and they won't turn away, and they hear the song and they start jumping up and down. I mean, it's really a bit of the spectrum of the people that are around. There's some that don't even read yet, so we'll get those. But yeah, they're usually mostly, I would say, maybe adults. But I've had my hand in a little bit of everything. So.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did you find it sort of hard to sort of translate your jokes to a younger audience, like 8 to 12, which is the middle grade range for Chupa, or is it pretty universal?
No, because I still remain very, very kind of adolescent in my thinking of material. It's very simple. If somebody were to say like, how many times do I have to tell you? I don't know how many of you told me that the thing with my grandmother and I was very kind of quick. Like she would not say hello. She would say, "Are you gaining weight?" And I'd be like, "You not look at me through a screen door. Look at me in person." Everything was not that. If I could have just got her to say hello and goodbye, I think our relationship would have been a lot better, because we always talk like we were starting at the middle of a conversation. George, take that couch with you because I need to get some padding put in it. It's hard when I sit down. Everything from the middle of it.
I have to say, your grandmother is kind of the star of the show in this story because she's really funny and just like she is who she is. Was it fun translating her to a character in a book? I mean, she seems larger than life. So
yeah, years ago they wrote about me in Time magazine when I first started to become a little more public on my first show, and the writer said that I should thank my grandmother. She was still living, and that she was my muse. Like everything that I have done was derived from our relationship. So, I told her that, and she would have said like, "Oh, you didn't know," So, but to be able to talk about her and have different layers to her, different colors to her, like to me, she's still with me. She's not like, I mean, she's gone, but when you really love somebody and you have fond memories and they mean so much to you, they're never gone.
Absolutely. What do you hope that your readers will take away from the book when they finish?
Well, everything is so critical these days, that, with things, but I would hope that they would read this and that they would get a little emotional in a few parts of this book, because there's probably more people that grew up like me that felt a little out of place, and whether they're gamers now or their go-to, Comic Cons and all those things where they have found each other, I think people will find that this story is a very universal story. I think that when you love a book, you give it as a gift, but when you really love it, you won't let anybody read yours. So I think, somewhere in that area that this book will do quite well in schools. It should be in all the libraries. And what would make me really happy is to see a kid walking home from school and see this book under his arm.
I feel like after reading it, I learned so much about chupacabras, but I think there might be some people who don't know what they are or what they represent or what they do.
It's not really mythical. Let them be mythical, because maybe there is a Loch Ness monster. You just see that. Maybe there is Bigfoot. Maybe there are noises that you hear. I mean, I live in this house. This house has had it's an old house, but it has had some different energies in there, but not bad. I mean, they're not. I got people looking out for me.
That's funny. Can you give us a little sneak peek hint at what you're working on for book 2?
I went to a party of, a Day of the Dead party, which is our celebration to people who have gone, and an altar to them with the things that they liked, which is very, very, very personal. Putting a pumpkin outside your front porch to me isn't personal, but grabbing pictures of you with the person who has departed and the things that they loved, whether it was a perfume, my grandmother had oil of Olay. She loved Ginate, the stuff you put in the water. And I would go take a bath after she took a bath and immediately slip it. That stuff was like oil that lined up a pan, and all of the things that she liked so much and made an altar. So I went to a party, Day of the Dead party, with the woman who played my mother, and she had very extravagant altars to everybody. And there was a mylar balloon of a skull, and it was turned this way. And I was going, wow, this is a lot of energy in here. And then we took a picture before we left. And when they took the picture, the balloon was facing the camera and in between our shoulders, almost like if it came up behind us and put it in the middle. And I told Ryan that, and he was like, oh my God, it's perfect. So it's a little bit of things that are, have taken on an identity with inanimate objects, with balloons and things like that, piñatas and things that when someone's bad, the party favors and the balloons are the judges.
That's creepy.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. Everyone's kind of always looking out for you. But that balloon moved on its own, and I don't know, it was the first time I saw a mylar sugar skull balloon, but it was definitely the first time it got into a photobombed picture. So I thought that was a fascinating story. And there was a place where I grew up called Party Town, and it was just a little in a strip mall, and they had everything in there. So I would go to Party Town and almost disappear in those aisles of fangs and masks and long fingernails and eyes and puzzles that you couldn't do. So it's a little bit of the owner of Party Town and the people that go in there to buy these things for their celebrations.
That's great. For those who don't know, book 2 is called ChupaCarter and the Haunted Piñata. So it sounds like we'll be seeing a lot of creepy piñata stuff going on in that story. So thank you for giving us that little hint.
I left the cigar on my mother-in-law's porch, and I went to the store and I came back and there were 5 ladies with buckets of water swooshing it to the street because they thought that someone had put a curse on them, because I guess leaving the cigar in front of the door is bad luck. So and I said, no, that's mine. It's not an alternate universe. I left it there because I didn't want to bring it inside, and they were just throwing it. So all of those things are very familiar to some people, and they're entertaining. And if they're not familiar to you, and it's the first time you're hearing it, it's also entertaining.
I love how you've brought elements of your culture into these stories. Was that like a deliberate decision for you and Ryan?
Yeah, I think, Ryan is, has another eye. He lives in a place, far 3,000 miles away from me, and there's a different. That's where that happened. The cigar, fresh water to the street happened in Miami, Fort Lauderdale. But yeah, we both are of that mind. I would always see comedians when I started, and they would talk about things like, I remember I asked the guy, I didn't know you were dating somebody, because all his material was about dating. And I said, I didn't know you were seeing somebody. He goes, oh, no, I'm not. I just wrote to it because I just wanted to put that in my head, and it rang very false to me. So I started to look at the things that were real in my life, and maybe they weren't as much as I would have if I made it up, but to me it was more connective, and I think it's really kind of what separated me from everybody else.
That's awesome. Well, it's time for some reader questions, and we have a lot, actually. A lot of them are about your film and TV career, which isn't surprising. But let me give you a softball. How did you start your acting career?
Well, when you start to do stand up, you don't really think of being an actor as well. Just really kind of just thinking about being stand up, and the progression of a comedian in the '90s, like Ray Romano had Everybody Loves Raymond, and Drew Carey had his show, and Roseanne had her show. Mad About You, Paul Reiser was a comedian, and these comedians were getting shows. But also, I knew that it was going to be very difficult for me to have a show because a show like that had never succeeded beyond its initial order. But when I got my deal with Warner Brothers and Bruce Telford, and Sandra Bullock was kind of my fairy godmother who found me. And I read in December of 2001 with an actor, the guy Valente, that ended up being my best friend. And he's an actor, and I was a comedian. And I read with him, and everybody in that room kind of looked around like this. Did anybody ever ask George if he could act? Did we give this guy a show and he might not be able to act? So I saw the look on their face, and I have always been one person who didn't pretend that everything was great. And the minute I saw their faces, I went back and I spoke to the people that I was working with, and I said, "You got to find me an acting coach, and you got to find me an acting coach fast." So I found this woman, Warner Laughlin, and she was with me from December of 2001 until 2007, and I still use people that are in her teaching school to not only teach myself, but to work with Mayan as well. So she stayed kind of in the family.
Can you tell us a little bit about your new show that's coming up? I want to put a plug in for that.
Yeah. So, Mayan is on TikTok like all of the kids. And a lot of it was about, being divorced. I don't really spend that much time around Anne. And, for my birthday, they came over here. And then I guess there are these things like my parents still act like they're married, even though they're divorced. And the uncomfortableness of her sitting on my lap or trying to, count the gray hairs or how my collar was up when it should be down, garnered hundreds and thousands of views. So Debbie Wolf, who's the showrunner of Lopez versus Lopez, saw that, and it was a little bit of the dynamic that her and her father had. And then she pitched. She was working on The Conners with Bruce Elford, who did my first show, and Bruce said, "Well, let's pitch Mayan, George and Mayan," and they did. And I thought it was animation because it seemed so real that I thought, I don't know if you can get away a little bit more with animation. I said, "This is really good." And then it's us, and NBC picked it up. There are not many new sitcoms on TV, and it's been an amazing experience so far. The cast is incredible, and Mayan is incredible, and it is entirely different. And no comparison at all to the first show that I had. And I think that's the best compliment to this show and the first show.
Oh, that's wonderful. It must be so fulfilling working alongside your daughter that way.
I cut her cord, I cut her cord, and I went down the hall with her, and I carried her first. And to look at her face is every day. We worked yesterday is just, it's one of those things that, there's a lot of things that I couldn't believe have happened to me, but I think this has got to be the top of the list. I can't believe that the little girl that I raised, that we spent so much time together, is now, my co-star on this television.
And she's funny. I've seen her TikToks, like totally separate from being your daughter. She's just really funny on her own too.
Yeah, she's funny.
Okay, sorry. Back to the reader questions. Here's an oddball one. The Rodriguez kids from Tucson want to know, what is your favorite cereal?
Oh, should I go get it?
I guess so.
And you know, in a synergy type way, when I did the movie Rio, I was the toucan. So maybe in two of the movies, the real movies. So maybe Fruit Loops aren't so bad for you after all.
That's awesome. I love that you showed it to us.
And they used to be called sugar pops, and now they're corn pops because sugar, you know.
Sugar bad, yes.
That should be the next book. George and the sugar pop.
What is the best and worst part of being an entertainer, from Ethan in Minnesota?
You know, I think the best part has to be being able to recollect things and bring a life to them and show people the things that you know you've experienced in your life. To use names of people, to use situations of people, you know, to financially be able to take care of the people in your life, and to just have exceeded any expectation or any goal that I ever set for myself. But I think the worst part would have to be that you know we're in a very critical time in our country and around the world. So I would think the toughest part is that, you know, much like a professional wrestler, there's a character that's created, and much like in stand-up, that's a character. So you splinter off into different personalities and different characters pertaining to what you're doing at that particular time. But almost like a soap opera actor that used to hear them talk about going to the market, and they would say, why do you treat your boss so bad? You know, that they can't separate the fact that that guy who's buying food is not the guy that's in Port Charles or in Santa Barbara. So a little bit of my name and the fact that I'm George Lopez in everything that I do. People think that when they see me, that it's just one person, but there's probably like 6 of them that they could be mad at, and not the one that's standing in front of them.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people feel like they know you just because you're in everyone's households.
Yeah.
What do you wish you would have known at 25 years old? From Chris in Arizona.
You know, what I wish I would have known was that that I didn't have to be afraid of anything, and that every time I talked myself out of doing something, I would have talked myself out of doing something that I could potentially have been good at. You know, there was a lot of times that I got to a door and then went back. There was a lot of times that I had said I had gone and not gone because I was afraid and very introverted. But I would say that there's no reason to look at rejection as failure, because it's just another step in the road, and failures aren't failures because you're trying. So I would say that, you know, I would say don't be afraid to try, because you're succeeding when you try.
Yeah, I think that's good advice at any age, to be honest.
Yeah.
Is there someone you want to perform or act with that you haven't yet? From Lindy in Chicago.
You know, you know, you can manifest these things. You know, manifest destiny is maybe Latinos invented it, because they would be like, man, if I had a car right now, you know, and imagine if we had a pool, you know, and but I would say that I actually said out loud, what do you have to do to be in a DC movie? And then a couple months later, I got Blue Beetle. So maybe somebody that I haven't acted with yet would be, that's an interesting question because I know so many people. I would have to say that there really kind of isn't anybody. I've met a lot of people and acted with people. I think maybe, no, I think
Yeah. Well, you've worked with a lot of people already that I'm sure are pretty awesome. So,
you know, when I was 15 years old, I sold flowers to buy a guitar, and not that I was musical by any stretch, but we listened to rock music, and I've had a guitar around me for all of that time since I was 15, and all of the guys that I grew up listening to in high school, I became friends with in real life.
That's cool.
All the guys that were on my wall, all the guys who were on the posters on my wall, I became friends
Somebody asked in the chat how many guitars you own. Is it just the one from that time period, or is it more?
I have in the house. I have probably 25.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm not good. It was a guitar player. They'd come and take 23 of them away. I love playing. It's one thing that it's almost like I probably carry the first emotional support guitar with me everywhere I go when I travel. I take the guitar with me, and I can't even imagine saying, "Oh, I forgot my guitar." I would go back and get it now. At this point, I would go back and get it. But I buy them all the time. I had the honor of being friends with Eddie Van Halen from 2010 up until he passed in 2021, 20. And we golfed together and really didn't talk music a lot, but we had a great relationship. So I started to collect guitars that he designed, some of the older models, and also am blessed to have that. He gave me a couple that he played and actually played in this house.
I see a little bit of you in the book because I know Carter, the chupacabra, knows how to play a guitar too. So that's really a little bit of George in there.
I'm not sure if anybody's ever going to see me play one in public, but maybe one day.
You could write a song that goes with the book. That would be cool. Okay. Caroline in Florida wants to know, what does your ideal day look like?
The ideal day now is, we do the sitcom. We do 3 weeks on and then 1 off. So I'm off now until next Wednesday. So tomorrow I am going to try to play golf in the morning, which I love golf, and then I have some book obligations in the afternoon. And then Friday, we're going to fly to Las Vegas. I have a show at the Mirage on Friday and Saturday. And then Sunday, we come back. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, we're back working again for the next 3 weeks in a row. But I think that maybe with the show and the buzz that the show is getting, that I will kind of try to simplify my days when I'm not working and not necessarily travel as much doing stand-up, but just really kind of focus on making this show really successful because, I'm 62. People still see me in the morning. I'm 42. And I think that this show deserves my full attention because it most likely would be my last effort in TV. And I'd like to make it. Jamie. Oh, yeah, she's back. That's not. Oh, there you are. You're back. Can you hear me, Jenny?
Sorry, George. I think we cut out for a little bit.
Yeah. Did I cut?
No, we're hard into it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I have another question from Kendall in Michigan. Has there ever been a pinch me moment in your career where you felt like things just weren't real because they were so great?
Man, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of them. I watched a lot of television growing up, and my grandparents went to work early and then came back late sometimes. So I spent a lot of time alone in my house, and I would watch the show Mike Douglas, and I would see Richard Pryor on there, and I would see Freddie Prinze Sr., the father of Freddie Prinze Jr. I would watch their shows, Sanford and Son, and TV was I don't want to say that it took the place of people, but it was, if it had not have been there, I'm not sure what would have happened to me. But in being a fan of these comedians, Freddie Prinze, who passed away in 77, and then Richard Pryor. When my show had the 100th episodes and they came and asked me if I wanted to get a star on the Walk of Fame, I said, I'm not going in until Freddie Prinze goes in. And then no one had even nominated him. And then Johnny Grant, who was the unofficial mayor of Hollywood, came and said, no, you're right, he's not in there. But if you want to get Freddie in there, you could do that. and then you could go in. So I got Freddie Prinze his star. People had kind of forgotten about him in Hollywood, and his son was there. The people that worked with him were there, and his mother was on the phone from Puerto Rico. And Junior said to me, "My grandma wants to talk to you," which is Freddie Prinze's mother. And she said to me, "Thank you for taking care of my Freddie, what you've done for my Freddie. People forgot my Freddie." And then she said, "If you and my Freddie were if my Freddie was alive, you and him would be best friends." So, I mean, that's one of those things where when you're a kid watching this show and I made a connection with him that will last forever. And I would not have been able to continue. I would not have gone into the Walk of Fame if he didn't go first. Because when I was 14, we used to drive to Hollywood every day, and 15, and walk and look at the stars. And you imagine that, you know, you never imagined that you'd be in the street. But, you know, I went in there, but I didn't go in there until Freddie Prinze went
in. Sean from Texas wants to know, do you have any advice or encouragement for a middle schooler who's really struggling to fit in school? I know you kind of touched on this before when we were talking about ChupaCarter, but
you know, I would say that let's look at the world that's bigger than just the school that you go to, and let's look at the world larger than the people that surround you. And the world is so big, and the school might be a difficult place, but listen, man, you're in the world. You fit in the world. So these things only pertain between 8 and 2. And the world is a 24-hour, 365 years after years. And know that in that space that you're in, you're going to progress forward. And like a rocket, parts of the uncomfortableness will remove themselves every day that you allow yourself to not feel like you're different or not of value or don't belong. Somebody trying to make you feel uncomfortable, it says more about that person than it says about you. But have an inner dialogue with yourself and say to yourself, I'm here, I belong here, and I'm going to be here, and I'm a good person. I'm good. I'm worthy of knowing people. I'm not what they're trying to perceive me or make me look like or sound.
That's awesome. So I know Jorge in the book is based loosely on you as a kid, and obviously we talked about your grandmother being a really great character in the book. Was Carter the chupacabra based on anyone you know, or was he more like somebody you wanted to know if you had been?
I would say, I had some pretty good friends. My friends, but they all had their siblings. They all had mothers and fathers, and they all had brothers and sisters. And I spent a lot of time. They played football. I didn't play football. I played baseball, but that was only maybe 2.5 months from March to the end of April. I think I think he's. When you go to school and other friends, if you miss the bus on a field trip or you miss the bus going home, you'll find a kid to talk to, and sometimes they're cooler than the kids you hang out with. Like when all my friends were playing football, I would hang out with a bunch of other guys, and maybe they could draw, or maybe they did other stuff that were more adventurous than my friends were. But I think he's maybe a collection of myself a little bit, and the things that I would have wanted my perfect friend to be like. And the end, and always drawing circles and being connected to the moon is so still very real to me. Like I see the moon and it finds me. Like I know it's everybody's moon, but it finds me in crazy places. I was sitting in the chair upstairs and I look out the window and it's in the corner of my window, almost like if somebody would have placed it there. So I always look up, because a lot of times kids, without knowing it, walk to school with their head down or think with their head down. We got to start thinking with our head up and not down.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that sort of aligns with what you were saying about your advice to middle schoolers too. You really just have to keep going and think about the people that love you.
Have fun with the uncomfortableness. It's not going to last. Have fun with that uncomfortableness. find what's good in you. If you draw, and if you want to sing, play an instrument. There's there's so many things to do.
It's time for our sort of lightning round of questions. Those are just sort of really fun, short, little questions that I'm gonna fire at you, and you can just tell us so we can get to know you a little bit more. Where were you born?
Los Angeles, about 5 miles from here.
Nice. Who would you want to play you in a movie?
I would say, who do I want to play me? I would say Eugenio Derbez.
Okay. What was your first job?
My first job inside, I worked at a fish and chips place in San Francisco.
Oh,
And
nice.
little did I know that when I was working at the fish and chips in the summer, that oil would not come out of my hair or my clothes. And then the first year I went to 10th grade, everybody was like, did anybody smell it? What is that? And it was in my clothes. So after school, I walked up to the fish and chips place, and the lady saw me walk in, and she said, "You want to quit, huh?" And I said, and her name was Dorothy. "You want to quit?" And I said, "Yeah." "It's the first day of school." I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Yeah, just like everybody else." I guess everybody smells like they work at a fish and chips place. And the first day of every new school year, they go up there and they quit.
So the paycheck was not worth the smell of oil.
Oh, I mean, I used to go late to a football game and thought I was cool because I went late, and everybody was like,
Okay. What chore do you hate doing?
I hate carrying things, moving things around.
Like guitars?
No, boxes. I hate bringing in groceries. I would just go to the car and get what I needed. If I needed milk, I just go to the car and get the milk. Soap, come back, and the shampoo, come back. I bring things at the time.
Okay, what is your biggest fear?
But my real fear? My biggest fear is that I'll be driving and that somebody will be texting and driving and hit me while they're driving. I'm really against texting and driving. And even someone said to me, asked me that question. That was a person who could read people, and she said, "What's your biggest fear? You want me to tell you?" And she told me, and it really is. When someone is driving and texting, it frightens me, and no one should do it. Accidents happen very quickly, but it's one of the things that scares me the most.
Absolutely. Who makes you laugh the most?
Who makes me laugh the most, man? Guys that I travel with on the road, guys that I golf with. Angelo Pagano's married to Leah Remini. We play golf with some of the directors. I play golf with Anthony Anderson and Cedric, but Anthony Anderson has made me laugh in places that I didn't even know I had spots. Incredibly funny.
Okay. What is one thing you need to have in your fridge at all times?
Raisin bread.
Oh.
And I could get the raisin bread pack and put styrofoam in there so it looks like a raisin bran thing, and I buy it every week. But my grandmother would never allow me to have raisin bread. And for the last over 20 years, every week or whenever that one passes its date, there's raisin bread in my refrigerator. I might not always eat it, but when I open the refrigerator, I have to see it there.
It's a luxury that you want to give yourself now.
It just makes me feel connected to where I grew up. I don't know why I want to be connected there, but it's still very much part of me, I think.
I love
In this
that.
little house. I used to say it was a hallway. You could go like this and be on both sides of the hall. That grandma would say, "Hallway and get a towel." Hallway. I could still be in the living room and get a towel.
Going back to school, what was your favorite subject?
My favorite subject was, let's see. Wow, that's a good one. I liked history. I liked history in elementary school, and in junior high, I started to take a little bit of it used to be called youth administration and justice. And youth administration and justice was a bit of like a law, kind of law, going over the laws and also different cases of situations. And in junior high and in high school, I took like understanding the law.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you have any guilty pleasures?
I mean, there's a House of Pies not far from here. So I'm not sure how a Chicano kid from San Fernando with not a lot of means would make lemon meringue pie his favorite, but I saw first lemon meringue pie. But my guilty pleasures are donuts, even though I because my grandma said I couldn't have any. And they should say they're closed. And so donuts, and always a lemon fill, not a raspberry, and glazed twist. But yeah.
Yum. This is a funny one. What color is your toothbrush?
I have a Philips Sonic Care. It's dark blue, almost like the chupacabra color blue, and it has a new Sonic Care head on it. Because the other ones with the hair, you gotta get them when they're still like this and not flat.
On a more serious note, what cause is dear to your heart?
Well, I had a kidney transplant in 2005, and I was sick through my childhood, undetected. And if I had been from a family that went to the doctor, I know culturally, we don't want to go to the doctor, but we go when you already have pain, not when you feel like you're getting pain. So I had borderline hypertension as an athlete when I was 17, and the doctor who was doing the physicals for school made me go sit outside, and all the rest of the guys were, "What are you doing out here?" Oh, I had to sit down, he goes, "Go in and calm down and think about a happy place." And I went in there and I was still borderline, and he passed me anyways, and he said to me, "I think you should take a look at why a 17-year-old kid would be borderline hypertensive." So in my having a kidney transplant, I told my doctor, Cohen, that at that particular time when we first met, that I wanted to get better and go back to work, and I didn't want to be the poster boy for kidney disease. And then a day and a half after I had my transplant, in the middle of April of 2005, I felt better than I ever had any day in my life previous. And at that moment, at 6:45 in the morning, on April 21st of 2005, I made a vow to start a foundation and to help kids who had kidney disease and situations like
that. That's wonderful. Another question, which I think is probably pretty related to that, is what's your greatest achievement? It seems like you've made a lot of progress in that area.
I think my greatest achievement is after 20 years of my first television show, to get an opportunity to do it again and to get an opportunity to do it with my daughter. I mean, we have to be. Mine's very funny too. We yesterday we had a chicken, and I said to my grandson on the show, "Say hello to," and I needed a chicken name for a hen, and then mine says, gave me this name, said, "Say hello to Jennifer Lopez." Mine gave me that one, so and then she said Shakira, and we did too. So clearly, she got the gene, but to have thought of myself as such a solitary figure in stand-up and trying to get to a point where you would be successful, did it pretty much travel alone and went alone. But then 20 years later, to be able to look to my left and my right and see my daughter with me is maybe my greatest achievement.
Absolutely. A couple of quickies. Someone wants to know, what's your favorite color?
My favorite color is like a chocolate brown, like I call it Chicano brown. Yeah, like a brown. Also like, I wear red, and people say, "You look good in red." So red, and I love brown.
Okay. What's your favorite holiday?
My favorite holiday is that's a good one. I'm going to say 4th of July.
Okay.
The first time I had a girlfriend, I had a girlfriend for the first time on 4th of July in 1976.
Oh, that's sweet.
So we watched the fireworks together, and family was surrounded me.
I love that. Okay, last question, and it's kind of related back to chupacabra, chupacabras and ChupaCarter. Have you ever seen a ghost?
Oh yeah.
You got to tell us about it.
You want to see it?
Oh. Do you have photographic evidence?
I'm not sure if my grandmother was very connected to. There's everybody has an intuition, and everybody has a sense of things, and some people believe in is it paranormal or things of possession or sounds, but in this house, from the day that I moved in, there's been some activity, and I captured one because I felt like somebody was watching me, and I took a video and I found.
Were you scared by it, or?
I'm not afraid. It doesn't scare me. It's worth it. Hang on. Yeah, in this house, there's been a lot of stuff either on the other side of the house and up and around.
Is it an old house?
It's an old house, and is it? Yeah. So I do believe in those things because I think that they're not all bad. Sometimes there are people looking out for you. I can't find it.
Maybe you can post it on your Facebook page after.
I think I will.
I'd love to see it.
One more thing.
Well, I'm glad it's not a bad or vengeful.
No, it's not bad.
That would be tough to live with, I think.
But to answer the question, yes.
Have you only seen the one or others?
There's been different ones. There's been different ones around. Wow.
You sound really confident, so I have to believe you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Very odd.
Okay. Well, that was the last question that we have time for. I just want to say to everybody who's here, if you'd like an autographed copy of ChupaCarter, you can go to the link that you see on the screen, premiercollectibles.com/Lopez. And that's about it. George, do you want to sign off for us?
Yes. Thank you for having me, Premier Collectibles, and thank you, Jenny. And I hope that everybody loves this book. I love doing it, and I think in just the first 2 chapters, you'll see that it's a story that you'll want to continue to share. And hopefully, like all the great books, it finds its place in kids' hands and libraries and in hospitals and schools and everywhere somebody needs, just a little bit of a push, a little bit of an eye-opening to know that things get better. And if they're good, they get better. And if they're bad, they get better.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
See you later. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you much. I appreciate it.
Hey, this is John Acuff, New York Times best-selling author of 7 books and someone who's done a live signing. If you like the one you just watched, make sure you check out our YouTube channel. It's full of amazing authors having great conversations and signing books for viewers just like you. So make sure you subscribe, and thanks for watching today.